the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show.
Welcome to the Dep Lewis Show, episode 183. This is your host, Dep Lewis, and today is Sunday, June 7th, 2026, a great day for a podcast about video games and more. So I hope you're doing great out there in the world, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. Thank you for being here. The first order of business is to ask you to follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. Now, today's show will have three sections as always. The first section, I'll tell you about what video games I've been playing since I've last talked to you on this microphone. And I am very happy to report that I have completed a video game in the past week. This is something that I've been playing a whole lot of this year. It's something that released this year, but it's a re-release, and I'm excited to tell you about that in the first section. And then the mid-section of the show, which is not mid in quality, it's the middle of the show. That's where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And there has been tons of news this week. This has been one of the busiest weeks in video game news that we have during the year. There was a Sony State of Play that took place last Tuesday, so I want to tell you all about that. There was a Summer Game Fest presentation that took place on Friday, so I want to tell you all about that. And there was still some other announcements that even took place. So tons of video game news in the midsection of the show and other announcements as well. And the third and final section is the miscellaneous talk section. That's where I can talk about anything I want to outside the video game world. And I always like to get into the worldwide world of sports in that section and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. I am recording an earlier podcast today. I've been recording later in the day for the last couple months or so, but it's 9 a.m. in the morning. The Braves are playing around 1:40 today, Eastern Standard Time, to close out the weekend series with the Pirates. And there's also, talking about all the video game showcases, there's also an Xbox showcase going on today. I believe that's at 1 p.m. Eastern, so I'll have to report back next week for any news that comes out during the Xbox show. But there's still tons of stuff to talk about from the past week, so let's get into it. So I guess selfishly, my favorite bit of news from the past week is that I've completed a video game, and that video game is Pokemon LeafGreen. So, I wanted to be the very best like no one ever was, and it has come true. My Pokemon have entered the Hall of Fame. So the 6 Pokemon that I finished the game with were Venusaur, Flareon, Articuno, Nidoking, Lapras, and Raichu. So shout out to all those great Pokemon. Venusaur is definitely in consideration for one of my favorite Pokemon. Flareon's up there. Lapras has been making some moves, and there's a couple other ones in this game too, but I'm really happy with the 6 that I rolled through here at the end with, and I had a really, really great time with this game, and I've even still been playing some of this after completing it, because there's still some stuff to do around the world if you want to, but I completed all 8 gyms. I took down the Elite Four, and I took down the most menacing, the most troublesome, the most grind-inducing enemy, my rival at the end. So that was the thing that's been tripping me up for the last couple of weeks, I guess, if you listen to this show. I took on the Elite Four, really kind of had no problem with them, and then I got to my rival, and I was unable to complete the battle against my rival, so I had to go through the dreaded whiteout and go back to the beginning and go back to the drawing board is what I had to do, and basically go level up my Pokemon. So in the past week, I figured out the Verse Seeker item, and you get this item from somebody. I can't remember off top which city it is. I want to say it's either one of the V cities, Vermilion or Viridian, or it could be in Celadon. Not really too helpful here in this moment on the podcast, but a NPC in the world just gives you the Verse Seeker, and this allows you to rebattle trainers in the world that you've already fought. So it's a good way to, gain experience and grind. So in the past week, that's where I've been stuck at. I took down the Elite Four, but I couldn't get past my rival. His Charizard was just kind of too strong. I really didn't have enough on the back end of my squad to take him down. So I've been spending the last couple weeks for real, but this past week I started using the Verse Seeker, and that really helped. But trying to level up Lapras and Raichu, trying to get them more closer to the top tier Pokemon. like in the 50s. I think my Venusaur is a 68. I think Flareon and Articuno around 55, something like that. Nidoking's around 45, and then Lapras and Raichu, I got them up around the 50s when I went into the battle to beat the game last week. But the Verse Seeker, I found through reading online that a good place to use this Verse Seeker. So if you want to grind in the game, you want to get some more experience and a good section, you go to one island, and right outside of Mount Ember is a great place to level up. So for the Verse Seeker, you want to be in an area on the screen where you can see, you want to get as many trainers on the screen that you can see in one screenshot. So right outside of Mount Ember, there's the opportunity to get, I think it's 1, 2, 3. There's 5 trainers out there. One of them's a 2-trainer battle, but there's 5 trainers out there. You can get them all on the screen at the same time. You open up your menu, you get the Verse Seeker out, and you trigger the Verse Seeker or use it or whatever. It'll kind of ping those enemies. If the trainer wants to rebattle, it'll put an exclamation mark over their head. If it doesn't trigger a rebattle, it puts an X over their head. So, sometimes they'll all want to rebattle. Sometimes only one of them will want to rebattle, and it's just some RNG with that. But it gives you the ability to go through a real battle. You get some actual experience that's better than just fighting a weak enemy across the world, and you get some more money too. So it was really, I'm going to call it a cheat code, but it's an item in the game, but it was a really, really useful one for leveling up my squad at the end. So I had been doing this in the past week. I've basically just been grinding that one spot outside of Mount Ember while watching TV or baseball. I guess that's the same thing. Or watching YouTube, watching baseball, listening to a podcast, just basically sitting there kind of mindlessly clicking, trying to level up my Lapras and Raichu. And it was all for nothing, but it was not all for nothing because it really, really helped me. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go try out this battle again. I went and bought a ton of items to prepare myself before going into the Elite Four and rival battle again. So, you stock up on revives are important. You want to get some max potions. You want to get some full heals. And, I went through pretty easily this time. I definitely had to do some revives. The last time I was fighting my rival, I was down a Pokemon. So whenever I got to my save before fighting the rival, I only had 5 Pokemon and I did not have any more revives. So this time, having 6 Pokemon was going to be a benefit in itself. And now they're all stronger, so that was helping me even more. So, basically I went through the battle again. I was like, hey, I'm going to do the damn thing. I took down the Elite Four once again. Had a little bit of trouble there, but not like the first time. I had to use maybe just a couple of revives, and my team did a great job through those 4. I get to my rival, and the Charizard comes out, and I'm like, oh man, here we go. But luckily, I sent out Articuno. I think Articuno hits him with a blast, takes down like a third of his health. I think he hits Articuno, kills me, and then I bring out Lapras. Lapras gets a hit on him, takes down about a third of his health again. Charizard shoots at me, he misses, and then Lapras hits the Surf once again and takes down Charizard. So after that, I think I just had Gyarados to take down, which I eventually got Raichu in there, which was helpful that I leveled Raichu up and was able to take him down. I threw my hands up in glory like I did when I completed the Elite Four for the first time and thought I was done. I was really, really excited. But this time, when I saw the Gyarados' health go down to the end because of Raichu, I really did throw my hands up. I'm like, man, I really did it. I was very excited about this. I had a great time with this game. I definitely ran into some challenge with this game, which forced me to do some grinding for a couple weeks. But, look, even during the grinding, I was having fun with this. I had fun with this game the entire way through and just really, really glad to complete it. So, I can check this one off as the first Pokemon game I've ever officially completed. And I've definitely, played some Pokemon games over my life, but never completed one. And really, really happy to do so. So this one will definitely be a contender for one of my categories for the Dep Lewis Show Awards. Is always a favorite game from a prior year. So this will definitely be a strong contender for that category because I had so much fun with this. I think I put around 70 hours in completing this was the total. And I think all of that was pretty much necessary. I think maybe I could have taken on the trainer a little bit, taken on the final rival a little bit before, but maybe I overtrained a little bit, but it was pretty close. So I think it was the right moment. I was glad to do so, and there is still a little bit of fun to be had in the world if I want to go just catch some more Pokemon. So it does open up the National Pokedex, which makes more Pokemon available to catch in the world. I have been going on a mission. It's been my mission since after completing the game that I want to go catch Entei. So he's one of the legendary Pokemon that starts roaming the world. After you complete the game, you have to get the National Pokedex. I think you have to catch 60 Pokemon was one of the things too. And then you have to complete these missions. You have to go get a Ruby and get a Sapphire on the one island. So I've got the Ruby. I need to get the Sapphire, and then I think that'll trigger Entei to be going around the world. But in the past week since I've completed the game, I've been trying to get Entei to spawn, and I don't think he even is going to at this point. But the trick I've read is you want to use a Super Repel. You want to put a Pokemon from level 40 to 50 in there, something to kind of scare off any lower level ones. And you're going to get a random encounter with Entei. And my plan is to use my Master Ball in Entei. So, maybe next week I'll be able to report back on that. But I do have to go complete a little bit more on the one islands, or the Sevi Islands, or whatever they're called, to be able to get the Sapphire to turn in, so I can, I don't know why, but that's the trigger for getting Entei to be spawning in the world. So I've been doing that. I've been working on that portion. I also did catch Moltres, which was pretty fun. I was kind of thinking maybe I needed to go through Mount Ember. Maybe Entei was going to spawn in there for some reason, but I got to the end of Mount Ember and Moltres was up there. So I did the whole thing. I saved right before. It took me like 4 or 5 restarts with having maybe like 25 Ultra Balls and, getting down to 5 and then restarting. But it wasn't too painful. And this was another scenario where I finally caught Moltres out there. I was just kind of mindlessly clicking again, just trying to catch him. It took me a while. I was listening to a podcast, I believe, and just trying to do this and sitting on the porch. So very, very enjoyable. And when I actually caught Moltres, I really couldn't believe it. Threw my hands up, and the second legendary bird I have in this game. So it's a little bit, just kind of collecting for fun at this point in this game. But there's still some trainers I haven't battled. It could be fun to go catch more Pokemon around the world. I definitely would like to try to get Entei. If it's somewhat easy, I've been trying to get Entei when I'm not able to, so that's felt kind of dumb. But I've still been having fun with this game even after the fact. But I think the prime portion of me talking about Pokemon Leaf Green has been completed, and this game definitely has to be considered for one of my favorite games ever. I really kind of blazed through this at a pace I don't normally do for video games. I had so much fun through it. I even got challenged in this game and didn't give up, so that's unusual for me as well. And I'll just have to consider it. Last year I started ranking my favorite games of all time yearly, and this one will have to get into the conversation at the end of the year. So Pokemon Leaf Green, thank you for being an awesome game, and I'm going to continue to keep playing some more Pokemon games, and maybe even some more Pokemon Leaf Green. So of course I'll keep telling you about it. So I think that's everything I want to tell you about Pokemon Leaf Green. Let me try to see if I have anything else here in my notes. But shout out to the Verse Seeker, and shout out to Articuno and Lapras. They really took down that Charizard, the dynamic duo, and made me very happy. So maybe Entei will be one of my Pokemon next week I can tell you about. But I've also been playing some more of my Pokemon games. I've been playing some more Pokemon Sword, making some progress over there with Boltund, which is one of my favorite Pokemon in general. And Boltund and Inteleon are my 2 lead Pokemon in Pokemon Sword. I've been playing this file for a while, but I've just been kind of picking it up more recently. I'm 4 badges in on this, so I'm halfway through the badges. I was noticing how my Pokemon are almost all level 50, or I think that's the case. But I was just kind of noticing how I'm so early in this game still, and all my Pokemon are almost leveled over all my Pokemon in Leaf Green. So a big difference with the experience share going on in the modern games. But I've been having fun with Pokemon Sword. I've been trying to do some leveling is what I've been doing. So that's something I do enjoy doing in these games, which I think has been helping me. And I think it's been, a selling point on these games too, that, you can do a lot of leveling in these games and help yourself out. So I've been playing some more Pokemon Sword, basically just going around with Boltund, trying to level him up. And I've also been playing some Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. So Prinplup is still my top dog over there, the evolution from Piplup. And I'm kind of wondering when Prinplup is going to evolve. I would imagine it's kind of soon. I think he's almost to level 25, so I don't know if that's the case. But I've got to the section where I've got to the Grand Underground, so that's kind of like the exploratory area in this game. And I got down there, I kind of met a tough enemy, got scared, and I think I saved. So I'm always kind of a little bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to those things of like tough enemies or, scary places in games. So I need to get a little bit tougher out here. And I like that you can just hit a button and dip out from the Grand Underground. But it also, there's a an air of mystery to what's going on down there. What do I need to exactly do? I'm not sure. So, just a new wrinkle in the Pokemon formula, but I've been having fun playing Pokemon Brilliant Diamond as well. So I'll probably keep on playing some Pokemon here over the course of the year would be my guess. I've definitely had Pokemon Legends Z through A on my mind a little bit more. Wanted to try that and give it a chance some more, and that might be the case in the upcoming week. So, I've completed LeafGreen. Definitely, you'll probably hear me toot my own horn about that, or pat myself on the back for that for a little while, like I did with Breath of the Wild, because I'm just happy about it. But I've been playing some more Pokemon Sword and Brilliant Diamond as well. But there's been some other games I've been playing. This has been a really, really fun time for video games for me. There's been a ton of stuff out to play that I've been enjoying, and I've been playing some more Forza Horizon 6. So this one is definitely the lead dog contender or it's leading the race, you might want to say, for Game of the Year for me. It's been living up to all the hype that I could ever imagine, and every time I'm playing this game, I'm having fun. So I'm still making progress here and having fun. There's still the majority of the things that I'm missing in this game. I'm pretty close to getting close to the end of the wristbands, but I've only done a very, very small fraction of the Japan tour. So I need to probably, spend a day or two just trying to do some of those and make some progress there. So that's one thing I do need to focus on in the upcoming week. But I've been basically just driving around, hitting signs. I've been actually losing some races, so I've been considering moving the difficulty back down just so I can kind of get some completions or first place in some things. But I've also just been kind of redoing some races and just really free roaming in this game. It really does a great job of letting you, I don't know what's the difference between this game of like having ultimate freedom to do whatever you want to do that I enjoy. Maybe it's just I like driving games or something, but you really can go in any direction. You can replay stuff. You can do new races. There are different series that pop up. There's different cars to try. There's different different requirements for the different races. I mean, it's just, you can really kind of do anything you want to. They're all very, very easy to get to. It's fun driving around the open world, and it's just a really, really fun game. I also did play some Forza Motorsport, the game from 2023, just to kind of, I was kind of playing this in the weeks up before Forza Horizon 6 came out. And when I jumped into Forza Horizon 6, I was a little bit shocked by how more like arcadey it feels, because I didn't quite remember that. But then going back to Forza Motorsport in the past week, you immediately kind of go back to more of the simulation side of things. So it is a pretty good contrast. And I think they're both still great on their own merit. I still think I got to tip the hat a little bit to Horizon if I have to pick a franchise. But I think I kind of love them almost equally, I would have to say. Or maybe I wouldn't equally on a good day. But when I did go back, you do notice that it feels more simulation-like. They want to make you do a practice run on the track. It's a little bit strange even having tracks, or this one was just kind of like a short loop kind of thing. And other cars definitely feel a little more tough to control around turns and things like that. And but equally fun. So I'll probably be playing a lot of these, probably hearing a lot about these games this year, hearing about the Pokemon and hearing about Forza. But I've been having so much fun with Forza Horizon 6, so I want to make sure I am saying that. All right, something else that I've started in the past week is a game that I played some on PlayStation, but this game just released on Switch 2, and I've been kind of waiting on this, and this is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is out now on Switch 2. So the original release of this game was February 2024 for PlayStation 5. It came to Windows in 2025, and now this game is officially available on Nintendo Switch 2. It's also available on Xbox Series now too, as of June 3rd. The Switch 2 release and the Xbox release are both $49.99 US. This one's from Square Enix. This is the second game in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. So I have completed the first game in the Remake trilogy, and I probably played around 20 or 25 hours of Rebirth and then kind of fell off into an open world area. But having this game on Switch 2 and being able to play in handheld is just really, really cool. It's kind of up there in the Persona 3 Reload territory with, just being excited to have this game in handheld. It does not run as good as it does on, I don't even know if I want to say that. It clearly doesn't run as good as it does on PC or PlayStation 5, but I thought this game even kind of looked a little bit off on PlayStation 5 with the graphics. I normally do performance mode to get the frame rate up, but I used quality mode on PlayStation 5 for this game and still thought something looked like not optimized correctly for the console. And I think even with the Switch 2 version, they have dulled down some of the things. They've taken out some of the items in the background, I believe, or maybe given you less of a view of what you're looking at on the screen. Like, you just don't see as much detail on the screen at one time. But I think whatever they have done makes this game, I don't want to say look better, but maybe I am saying that a little bit. They did a really, really good job with this port. It doesn't run perfectly. There's still some pop in, but being able to play this game with these incredible like vistas and backgrounds and things going on and giant enemies you're fighting and multiple enemies on the screen, and then just the basic cutscenes in this game look really good. The cutscenes look really, really strong. The in-game world is where you're going to see a little bit of the lacklusterness, but I don't even know if you can say lacklusterness just for the fact that this is running on a Switch too. So that's the main thing I want to say. It's not perfect, but the work they've done to optimize this so it runs smoothly, that's for sure. It may not be perfect, but it runs smoothly. It looks good, and it's pretty incredible to be playing this massive of a RPG in handheld on a console. And it's one of those things, I think there's been a few experiences with the Switch that I get this feeling, but I'm like waiting for the shoe to drop or whatever it is. Like, I'm playing this game and I'm like, oh my God, this screen looks amazing right here. Oh my God, this cutscene looks amazing. Like, when is it going to change up and be hiccups or look bad? But I don't know why I have that feeling. It's almost like it's too good to be true. And just really, really shout out to all these third-party games running on the Switch too. It's really, really fun and impressive. So, hopefully I would love to get through this game. It took me a couple tries with the first game for it to really, click or get going. I don't know why. That's just something I do with games from time to time. But I am looking forward to getting to a portion in this game where I'm seeing some new stuff. I think it's going to be a while, but I've already put maybe 3 or 4 hours into this and having so much fun. Tifa, awesome character. I love the characters in this game. Tifa, Aerith, Barrett, Red 13, Cloud's an awesome, amazing character. You get to see Zack early in the game. You get to see Sephiroth. You get to be reminded why Sephiroth is such a bad dude early on in this game. And it's a really, really good intro. And this game's really, really fun. The combat's fun. I'm playing on the classic style, so it kind of does auto combat a little bit, but it allows you to do the inputs for like your magic and your stronger attack moves. So this is the way I played the first game, and I'm going to continue to do it on this one. And I've been having so much fun with it, and just want to make sure you're aware that, adding some news in here with this new game that I got, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is out now on Switch too. So I've been playing some of that. So that's been everything I've been playing in the past week. So I've completed Pokemon LeafGreen. I've been playing some Pokemon Sword and Brilliant Diamond. Been playing some Forza Horizon 6 and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So this is the year of the front log on the Dep Lewis Show. That's my overall theme for the year. So not making a backlog, not trying to complete any games, just kind of trying to play whatever I want and seeing how that goes. So my front log list of games would be Marvel's Wolverine, which comes out on September 15th. And Grand Theft Auto 6, which comes out on November 19th. So those are the two that I'm most likely to buy day one. There might be a few other games slipping in there, but I will have to update that list next week if that's the case. So that's going to wrap up the first section of the show. That's all. That's the intro and everything I've been playing, but the show is just getting started. The midsection of this show this week has a ton of video game news and announcements and reveals. So I'm very excited to tell you about all of that after this music. So please come back after this. Welcome back to the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 183. This is where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. So the first thing I want to tell you about was an announcement from earlier in the week where Sony announced some new accessories. These were announced and the pre-orders begin actually shortly. So I think the pre-orders for a couple of these might be up already, but they definitely in the upcoming week. So they have announced 3 new accessories. They have announced a FlexStrike fight stick, which is going to release on August 6th for $200. They have announced a 27-inch gaming monitor with a DualSense charging hook, which will release on August 27th for $350. And they have also announced the Pulse Elevate wireless speakers, which will release later in 2026. So please check those out if you want to buy any Sony accessories for your PlayStation 5. And then the big bit of news from Sony this week was they had a Sony State of Play that took place on Tuesday, June 5th. This State of Play had more than 60 minutes of updates, announcements, and gameplay reveals from top studios around the world. And I want to tell you about the things that I thought were most exciting about this. So the Sony State of Play that took place last week, they showed off some more of Marvel's Wolverine. Insomniac Games shares a brutal, violent, and action-packed look at its upcoming single-player adventure, alongside a closer look at Logan's ferocious combat techniques. The studio gave us a glimpse at some of the characters who you'll encounter as part of the Mutant Task Force Team X. That includes powerful telekinetic Jean Grey, who Logan teams up with for some devastating takedowns of the cybernetic mutant hunting Reavers. So this one, I'm definitely excited about just for the fact that Wolverine's cool. Insomniac is one of my favorite developers. I think this, my complaint from this trailer would just be all the gore, and that's just something that I've liked less and less. I don't know why. It's just been something, one of my preferences or whatever that's changed as I'm getting older or something, but this was really brutal to watch from all the gore going on. There was tons of blood, and that is something that is, what's the word? Like, it's like, it's necessary to have in a Wolverine game. They're extra ultra violent. That's the character. So, I mean, I get why it's doing that. But I did read after the game that it's an accessibility option that you can turn the blood down. And that is something that I would definitely like to do. So, I just think this one's a me issue. I think, the game's doing what it's meant to do and what it's intended to do and what people are going to be appreciating it for. But that was one thing I was watching this like, man, I am all the way sold on this, but, I would play this in a little bit different fashion. So that was my one note on the Marvel's Wolverine. But other than that, the game's looking extremely cool. The graphics look great. You're really just getting to see a view of the combat. It does look reminiscent of the Spider-Man combat, which is a little bit like the Batman Arkham Asylum combat. So very, very simple, but there's some layers to it and definitely like a good rhythm to the combat and fun to do. So I think the questions here around this game would be a little bit more around the story. I think this one is setting up to be more linear than the Spider-Man games. I don't know if there's going to be like an open world or open area or what it's going to be, but I'm definitely just putting a little bit of trust into Insomniac on this one, and that's why it's on my front log. So I'm looking forward to Marvel's Wolverine, and we definitely got to see, the most action-packed, brutal, violent gameplay that we've seen from Marvel's Wolverine so far in this Sony State of Play. All right, what else did I think was cool from the State of Play? They showed off some more Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. They showed off some new characters, 3 new characters, which are powerful Mutant Magneto, arch enemy of Spider-Man Green Goblin, and the brutally aggressive and utterly merciless Carnage. So they are joining Doctor Doom, and they form the Knights of Doom, who will impact events in the game's episode mode. So this game, I think this looks like a top-tier fighting game in every regard. I think this one's going to be a huge hit. I think it's really, really cool. The art style looks amazing. The fighting looks cool. I'm really, really sold on this. I get into a fighting game every so often, and I think this one could possibly be being added to my front log in the upcoming year. But, if you want to get more excited for it, go check out the footage from the recent Sony State of Play on Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. All right, the biggest announcement, this was the thing that closed out the show. I'm not really going in order of announcements. I'm kind of just doing them in order of things I think are most exciting, but this was definitely the biggest announcement from the Sony State of Play. It was what they closed the State of Play with. This was something that was a little bit rumored before, so not a complete surprise, but the official announcement was definitely exciting, and that was God of War. I don't know if I guess it's Laufey. Faye is the character who was Kratos' wife, who died that was kind of like one of the main story arcs of 2018 in Ragnarok was Faye passing away and Kratos and Atreus doing their thing after that. But God of War Laufey has been announced. You can experience the next chapter of the legendary God of War franchise for both new and returning fans. Death was supposed to be the end, but for Faye, a warrior and wife to Kratos, a new adventure is just beginning. To save the one she loves, Faye must fight through the afterlife of the gods in a land overflowing with dangerous magic. So this one's coming to PlayStation 5. No other release date or window shown. This was definitely a cool trailer. I've never really gotten into the God of War franchise. I've tried it a couple times. I've thought about getting into it. It's definitely on my list of things. Hey, maybe I'll play one of them at some point. But I think this one's cool. I think Faye looks like a cool character. But, to me, it looks a lot like it's not a huge switch up from the formula from the recent God of War games besides the setting and the character. I do think it's cool that Faye, you're getting to see a scene from, I guess it's 2018, where Kratos, sets the pyre on fire for Faye, that Faye's in after she passes away. And it's like a scene with him and Atreus being all sad and sullen at this, sad event. But in the new God of War Laufey, you're seeing that moment. You're seeing the embers burn up into the sky, and then you're seeing Faye going to the afterworld, which is really, really cool. So I think that was very interesting. I think Faye looks like a cool character. Faye is able to jump, which I think is a really cool addition to the God of War universe, and is a bigger change than it just kind of seems on its head, I feel like. She has a sword, which I think is cool. So there's definitely some potential here. I could see myself wanting to try this, and I think it would be pretty unusual for this to be someone's first God of War game, but I think a lot of it looks cool to me, and I could possibly see myself trying this. So God of War Laufey has been announced, and I think that was probably the biggest announcement from the Sony State of Play. All right, so what else? But there's still some more announcements I want to tell you about, and I'm not telling you about all the things that were announced. So, with all these shows, it might be best to go watch them yourself. I'm trying to hit the highlights of what I think is cool or might want to tell you about. But, they announced tons of games in these shows. They show sizzle reels of games. I definitely think they're worth watching, but, I'm kind of going over the things that I think are most cool today. So they showed off some more Ace Combat 8 Wings of Theve. Bandai, I guess that's how you say it, Theve or Theve, I don't know, I could be really wrong on that one, but Theve, I'm not really familiar with that word. But Bandai Namco's Aerial Combat Sim takes flight on PS5 October 2nd. This one's a multi-platform game. It promises a thrilling campaign and new tactical maneuvers to tackle enemy aircraft and ground targets, as well as encounters against colossal continental transport aircraft and land-based ships. 30 different aircraft, including real-world fighters and fictional models, will be yours to pilot in Ace Combat 8. So I think the actual release date for that one was the news here, October 2nd, for the new Ace Combat. All right, they also announced Bancho the Chef. So this was definitely a new announcement, and this is a prequel to Dave the Diver. So find the flavor of becoming a sushi master in Bancho the Chef cooking sim meets global trotting RPG in an all-new standalone prequel to Dave the Diver. You cook meals to customer satisfaction to raise restaurant reputations the world over while learning techniques from each locale's culinary master. Like the dishes he creates, Bancho isn't confined to a single flavor or genre. Fish, pet, cats take on cooking requests and more. So very cool concept. Dave the Diver, you are diving down into the ocean, you're collecting fish that you're bringing up to your sushi restaurant in the evening. So this is the prequel. And I think a really, really smart, cool idea of how this is going to fit into the universe. They didn't make just a straight up Dave the Diver 2, which maybe they would at some point, but I think this is a really cool idea. And Dave the Diver is something I played a portion of, thought it was cool. Just kind of one of those games I fell off, but I don't think that's really any indictment on the game. I think it's more of an indictment on me. But Bancho the Chef has been announced at the recent Sony State of Play. All right, the Sony State of Play also showed off some more Control Resonant, which we've seen some footage of before, but this one got a release date announcement, which Control Resonant is going to launch globally. This one's a multi-platform release on September 24th. And to celebrate, Remedy shares a brand new story trailer offering a deeper look into the world no longer bound by rules we understand. A Manhattan warped by paranatural forces, its architecture impossible, its reality shifting, its streets stalked by monstrous entities. For Dylan to push deeper into the city, he must master both his evolving abilities and the raw power of his shape-shifting weapon, the Aberrant. So this was a game from developer Remedy. Control was a huge hit and something I think a lot of people have been waiting on. It's maybe just a little bit too spooky for me. I have tried Control. Control goes on sale oftentimes for maybe less than $10, maybe even less than $5. So if you're interested, I think that game still holds up from what I understand, and people, hold that game in high regard. And we are going to be getting a sequel to Control, which is Control Resonant, on September 24th. So there is tons of games coming out in September of this year. Everyone's trying to get out of the way of Grand Theft Auto on November 19th, and it's really, really funny to start seeing the release calendar really, really build out around that. And I keep saying really, 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 but it is really, 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 really crazy. All right, something else they showed off in the Sony State of Play I want to tell you about is Rayman Legends Retold. This one was rumored last week, and I think was officially announced in the Sony State of Play. But this one's a 3D reimagining of the iconic multiplayer platformer. So this one's launching on PlayStation 5 and multi-platform October 1st. It's bringing new content and narrative twist, fully voiced characters, expanded soundtrack, new and improved gameplay with a rich selection of returning levels, a mysterious new realm, and 4 new musical stages, and of course, up to 4 players in couch co-op. So I did watch Giant Bomb did a quick look of this. They they made this into more of a 3D world, and they changed the art style up, which I don't think was necessary from hearing people who played the first game, but then again, when you look at the art style of this one, it looks good too. So it's a bit of a refreshing of the game, which I think people already enjoyed, which is a little bit of the confusion there, but seems worthy of trying. I don't think this one's a completely full price game. I've never completed a Rayman game or really played any substantial amount of one, but I do think this looks fun. I am definitely a platformer fan, and I have this one a little bit on my radar, and that one's Rayman Legends Retold. All right, this Sony State of Play, didn't really have, the biggest announcement really was God of War Laufey or Laufey. The rest of these are all kind of things we've seen before, but, getting shown off some more. And that's the last few things I want to tell you about from this. I think there's one announcement, but just continuing with the State of Play, they showed off some more of Silent Hill Townfall. So this one has a release date of September 24th. That might be the news from this show. But to mark the moment, the PS5 horror introduces a new character and gameplay trailer. And this one's multi-platform as well. In it, we get introduced to Zoe, an inhabitant of St. Emilia, who Simon initially connects with over his CRT TV device, as well as a terrifying new creature that will stalk him in the darkness of the other world. So they showed off some more of Silent Hill Townfall. They also, I think this one was previously announced as well, but they showed off some more of Dynasty Warriors 3, the complete edition remastered. So break out your calendar and get ready to slice a reminder mark on there. The modern day revival of both Dynasty Warriors 3 and Dynasty Warriors 3 Extreme Legends roars onto PS5 later this year on October 1st. So this one, I've never played Dynasty Warriors. This one would be one I would maybe not include, but I do think this was an extremely cool looking trailer. I think the protagonist characters in this game look really cool, and just the graphical fidelity of having all these enemies on the screen. I think it just looks really impressive running on modern hardware. So that's why I wanted to include Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition Remastered into this recap of the Sony State of Play. This next game was a new announcement, and this was Stuntman Hollywood. So Stuntman's a series that hasn't had an entry in a long time, but in Stuntman Hollywood, you can speed, pressure, and spectacle. Speed, pressure, and spectacle. Oh yeah, and spectacle collide as you take on iconic moments inspired by TV and movie racing greats as a stunt performer. Each film is split into episodes, and each episode is a unique level with its own vehicle and specific gameplay twists. I don't know why I'm thinking of Hitman in this right now. But from one episode to the next, the environment's pace, objectives, and scenes all change. Every film feels completely fresh and stylish. Precise driving and confident stunt work are rewarded handsomely. So definitely a very cool thing. I was watching Giant Bomb do the talk over of the State of Play, and they were very excited for this as fans of the previous game in the series. And it looks like this one would be, what you would want, possibly get some new fans on board, and definitely a really cool looking concept. All right, the last thing to tell you about from the Sony State of Play was, I think this one was already announced again, but actually got the date announced on this show, and that was Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis. So Crystal Dynamics is co-developing along with Flying Wild Hog, and they're returning to Laura's roots in Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis. This one's going to release on PS5 and multi-platform on February 12th of next year. To coincide with that release date announcement, Amazon Game Studios presented a whistle-stop tour of highlights in the form of a new trailer, including gameplay segments from the iconic Peru Lost Valley and the return of some familiar faces. So Tomb Raider, another franchise I never completed a game in. I am a fan of Uncharted, which I feel like is, the cousin of Tomb Raider. So I could have some potential for liking Tomb Raider. And we can all play Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis on February 12th of next year, is what they announced at the State of Play. So that's everything from the State of Play I wanted to tell you about. We talked about Marvel's Wolverine, Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, God of War Laufey, Ace Combat 8 Wings of Theve, or Theve, I don't know, Bancho the Chef, Control Resonant, Rayman Legends Retold, Silent Hill Townfall, Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition Remastered, Stuntman Hollywood, and Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis. So overall, I would have to say, unfortunately, a pretty weak State of Play. I don't think there was too much Sony identity going on here, besides Marvel's Wolverine, really. I guess Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls I don't know if that's going to come to other platforms in the future, and then God of War Laufey, definitely a big announcement, but as someone who's not really a God of War fan, not really hitting too hard for me there. So, the rest of these really were just kind of third-party announcements. They don't necessarily have to be in a state of play for Sony. So I think just kind of weak overall, and not really the most exciting for me to start the week for this, getting ready for all the exciting announcements. So a little bit of a disappointment there for the Sony state of play for me, for sure. So that's the recap from the Sony state of play from the past week. So that took place on last Tuesday, and then Friday it was both, I guess that was at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then Summer Game Fest was 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday. So Summer Game Fest took place on Friday, June 5th, hosted by Jeff Keighley and Lucy James. Lucy James has done some Giant Bomb content in the past, and I'm definitely a fan of Giant Bomb, so it was really, really cool to see Lucy on there. So shout out to her. This was live from the Dolby Theater in Hollywood for a 2-hour look at what's next in video games with new game announcements, surprise special guest, and more. So this was another show that I think was underwhelming. I think there was a few things in here I was excited about, but overall, not really too many things that I could see myself, playing on day one. So definitely some things in here I maybe could get sold on in the future, but not a lot of excitement overall from me for this show as well. So another one that I would say, hey, maybe go watch this for yourself. I'm going to go over everything I thought was cool, or most excited about for me. But, I might be missing some things you think are cool in there. But Summer Games Fest, the biggest announcement from this, it was the one that closed the show with, and something that I'm definitely excited about and been waiting to hear about, is Final Fantasy VII, the third part of the remake, and it's going to be called Revelation. So what a great revelation. I was excited for this. In Final Fantasy VII Revelation, a vast planet awaits. Everything leads here. This is the final battle to decide the fate of the world. You can take to the skies, chart your course, and stand with your companions against Sephiroth one last time. So this one definitely shows off riding around in a sky ship, which looks really, really cool. You can kind of explore around in that. And Final Fantasy VII Revelation is going to release simultaneously. So this is a pretty big deal for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Steam, and Switch 2. So very, very impressive. And they have told us spring 2027. So that is really not too far away, less than a year. They now have Rebirth out on all platforms. They have the first game out on all platforms, and they're going to be releasing the third in the trilogy simultaneously on all platforms, spring 2027. So very, very exciting. They have been knocking that series and remake out of the park. I'm excited to be back trying to play some more of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and hopefully I'll be playing some Final Fantasy VII Revelation spring 2027. So that was definitely the most exciting announcement to me from Summer Games Fest. They also announced an update to Street Fighter 6 is coming, which is really, really cool. So they announced the Year 4 Ultimate Pass, which I believe is going to be costing $45. $45.99, very expensive, but that is how you can get the 4 new characters for this game, which are going to be including Yasmin, summer of 2026, Arjun, autumn of 2026, Tifa, which I think is the most exciting and highlight of this announcement. So Tifa is coming to Street Fighter 6 early 2027, and Bosch is coming spring 2027. So I believe those other 3 characters, minus Tifa, are just older characters from Street Fighter. They definitely looked very cool, but I was just not familiar with them. But Tifa could have me going to play some more Street Fighter 6 in spring or in early 2027. So a pretty cool announcement from there. I have Street Fighter on multiple platforms. I never have really gotten hooked on it like I have other fighting games in the past, but it is something I could see myself playing some more of in the future. All right, the another announcement from the Summer Game Fest I want to tell you about. This was the one that led off the show and was a pretty cool, just exciting just because it's a giant franchise, but Resident Evil Veronica has been announced. This one's going to release in 2027 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and Steam. So another one where we're getting Switch 2 in the on the launch day lineup. So very, very cool that that's happening. I keep heralding the Switch 2 for being a great third-party machine, and that continues to be the case. And it's one of those things where it's like I'm saying with playing Final Fantasy VII Remake on there, I'm like waiting for the shoe to drop of when it's going to start looking bad. But I think these things have just caught up. I think these companies and developers are taking the time to optimize their games to run smoothly on this console, and it makes me very happy. But Resident Evil Veronica, in 2027, madness and intrigue, love and hate all combine to create a chilling new entry in survival horror. 3 months have passed since the biological disaster in Raccoon City. Claire Redfield, having survived along with Leon S. Kennedy and Sherry Birkin, travels to France in search of her brother Chris Redfield. So it definitely looked very horrific and horrifying. And I think this has been a remake a lot of people have been clamoring for. Resident Evil is an elite studio. Resident Evil is an elite series for their remakes, and this one will probably be no exception. It's been pretty crazy the rate they've been releasing their games. They've been giving remakes and new games and having just a wonderful, brilliant cadence. Shout out to Capcom for doing some incredible things and really being a strong pillar in the video game world, as they have been for a very, very long time. So Resident Evil Veronica has been announced. I don't know if I read this, but this is a remake of 2000's Resident Evil Code Veronica. This new title preserves the essence of the original game while introducing modernized gameplay, a reimagined storyline, and vividly detailed graphics. So I don't know if I read that little blurb, but that is the blurb on Resident Evil Veronica. All right, so Summer Game Fest also had a new update from Studio MDHR, which is the developer of Cuphead. So they have announced a Cuphead sequel, which is very exciting because Cuphead is something that I played a decent portion of. I never completed in any form or fashion because it's very difficult, but it's a beautiful game. It controls precisely and wonderfully, and I think it's definitely something worthy of checking out. But the Cuphead sequel, they have said, is in early stages of development, but they have also announced Mighty Cuphead Adventure, which is a new retro action platformer shooter in the 8-bit style. So I don't know if there's a date on either one of those, but it seems like the Mighty Cuphead Adventure will be coming sooner than the Cuphead sequel. So please stay tuned on the happenings of Studio MDHR. The original Cuphead was 2017, so quite a ways away. Time keeps on slipping into the future, and I didn't realize Cuphead was actually that old. But very cool. One of the cooler trailers or bits from this whole Summer Games Fest was they had the Cuphead puppet on there. Just very, very cool and fun to watch, and just exactly what you want to see during one of these shows. So shout out to Studio MDHR. All right, a couple more things I want to tell you about from Summer Game Fest I thought were cool. Monster Hunter Wilds is getting a upcoming expansion, and that's called Ascendance. So upcoming expansion, the Monster Hunter Wilds, coming at some point in 2027 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. In this new expansion, Ascendance, you can soar into a land above, wield new abilities, and hunt legendary monsters in Master Rank, and you can prepare for Elder Dragons. The other bit of news on Monster Hunter front that was announced, I guess, after the show, but Capcom also says that Monster Hunter Wilds, the port to Nintendo Switch, is also in development. So third-party machine is rocking and rolling, and this is a game that I played some of on PlayStation 5. This would be something I could potentially want to play more of, and if there's going to be a Switch 2 version at some point, that's probably how I'm going to want to try to play some more of this game. So Monster Hunter Wilds gets an expansion announced called Ascendance, and it's also been confirmed that Monster Hunter Wilds is being ported to Nintendo Switch 2. All right, Summer Games Fest. I always try to call it Summer Games Fest, but it's called Summer Game Fest. They announced Stellar Blade Blood Rain. So this marks the next chapter in the acclaimed action-adventure franchise being developed by the original team. So that's a developer shift up. There's no official date shown yet. It seems very early in development for the new Stellar Blade game, but this was I guess not unexpected, but I maybe wouldn't have been remembering this one actually, but Stellar Blade Blood Rain is going to be set in the same universe. It's introducing a new protagonist and expanding the world in a bold new direction, is what they say. Of Stellar Blade, the original released in 2024, and this one seems early, so I don't even know if we'll be seeing this one next year, but Stellar Blade Blood Rain has been announced. And the last thing I want to tell you about from Summer Game Fest that I thought was cool was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin. So I think I don't know if we've seen something about this before, or if it's just been rumored, but this one is official. Platinum Games is developing this, and this one follows the last surviving Ninja Turtle on a desperate mission for vengeance. So a very cool concept, one that I'm not too familiar with, but this is like an alternate universe where only one of the turtles survives, and he has to go slide for the turtles out there. TMNT, The Last Ronin, the release date is TBA, so nothing official or even a window, but this one's going to be coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. So that was everything from Summer Game Fest I wanted to tell you about. So we talked about the announcement of Final Fantasy VII Revelation, my favorite revelation from the show. We talked about Street Fighter VI getting Tifa added, the announcement of Resident Evil Veronica, Cuphead has 2 games in development, or the studio MDHR has 2 games in development. Monster Hunter Wilds is getting an expansion called Ascendance, and Monster Hunter Wilds is getting a Switch 2 port as well. Stellar Blade Blood Rain has been announced, and TMNT The Last Ronin, I believe that was the announcement, but I'm not all the way sure, but they showed off a little bit more of TMNT The Last Ronin. I think that was the announcement, because they didn't really show any gameplay for that. It was just kind of more of a typical kind of trailer you would expect, like a teaser trailer, a little bit more so than anything. But that was everything from Summer Game Fest. It was a 2-hour show. I would definitely say it was underwhelming to me. The Final Fantasy VII Revelation was something that everyone was expecting. We just kind of didn't know when. It was cool to get that announcement, and for that it was fun. I had a fun time watching this show. I always do, even if they are a little bit disappointing to me. And with these, maybe go check them out for yourself. Maybe there'll be some more stuff that you'll be saying, hey, I'm more excited than you are about this, etc. And that's perfectly fine. But my take on both of these shows, where they were a little bit underwhelming. But, either way, I always feel like I have tons of games to play. I'm sure there's going to be something from some of these shows that I'm going to want to play and that I might end up loving. And I'm always excited to hear about them and talk about them either way. So that's everything from the 2 big shows I wanted to tell you about, from the Sony State of Play and Summer Game Fest. But there's just a couple other things I want to remind you of news things that, not related to these shows. In the past week, Valve has, I guess they've confirmed, I don't know how you can really confirm. I think this is kind of like a really soft confirm, but Valve has said the Steam machine is going to ship this summer. So there's no official date. There's no word on the price yet. It's already June. So just something seems suspicious there. But Valve says the Steam machine is going to be with over 6 times the horsepower of Steam Deck. Steam machine has the power to play your whole Steam library, including your favorite AAA titles. Just sign in with your Steam account and your entire library is there. So this one, the biggest question mark here is going to be the price, and they've just increased the price of the Steam Deck. So I'm sure that is to, kind of get your mind prepped for how much a Steam machine was going to cost. So, a Steam Deck is now, I think, $900 or something crazy, or I don't want to say crazy, but they did have a substantial price increase recently. So that's probably to get these products in line. And I think all you really need to know is it's going to be expensive. But if this is something you really want, I think it's probably going to be pretty cool. But I think a lot of these things nowadays are going to be too expensive for just your everyday person, or even someone with a lot of money might not want one, just because of all the options out there and ways to play a game. So I think this one is becoming more and more of a tough release daily. It's something I'm excited to watch. And Valve has said that the Steam machine is going to ship this summer. So, they got to get on that. ASUS has announced a new version of the ROG Xbox Ally. This one's going to be called an ROG Xbox Ally X20. This one's going to be a new version of the ROG Xbox Ally X, which launched last year. This one has an OLED screen. That's the main takeaway from this. I believe it does have some update to the joysticks. It also has a transparent shell, so a unique look to it. There's no price confirmed yet, but I have seen multiple people guessing this one could cost up to $2,000. And this is something else that I just don't know. This one's going to be niche. And if they think it's going to be anything but niche, I think that's a huge mistake. This one's going to be way more expensive than the Ally X, which was already too expensive. I don't think a lot of people were early adopters of that handheld either. So I just think a little bit of a confusing announcement to me. And I don't know, but I definitely think it would be cool. I just definitely think some of this stuff, the price is a huge deterrent on these, and then the use case of it is a huge deterrent as well. So I don't know. ASUS ROG Xbox Ally X20 has been announced. All right, so that's kind of everything I have for you for the news in the past week. There is also an Xbox game showcase taking place today, actually on June 7th. So about 3 hours away from when I'm recording this. So I'll definitely be talking about that next week. Xbox Showcase is sharing upcoming games from their first-party studios, as well as partners from around the globe. And then the Xbox Game Showcase is immediately followed by the Gears of War E-Day Direct, which is definitely a game I'm excited for. So those will be the 2 things I'll have to catch you up on next week. But as far as the Xbox Game Showcase goes, I have pretty low expectations for that. I have Forza Horizon 6, which is a typically an Xbox thing. It's the Forza Horizon's been on PlayStation. The most, Forza Horizon 5 came to PlayStation 5. but I don't know what Xbox could announce else that I would want to know about. There's a Halo 1 remaster coming out this year, so maybe we'll see some of that. I'm definitely excited for Gears of War E-Day, but that's following the direct, or following the showcase. Fable has just been delayed until next year, so maybe we'll see some of Fable, but either way, I don't really know all the way what to expect. Xbox have been really trying to shake up their things with their new CEO going on, so maybe they'll be the pleasant surprise of the weekend for me, because I feel like the other couple shows have been letdowns in this past week. So that's everything going on in the video game world I wanted to tell you about. We talked about the new Sony accessories announced, the FlexStrike Fight Stick, the 27-inch gaming monitor, and the Pulse Elevate wireless speakers. We did a Sony State of Play recap from the past week, talking about games like Marvel's Wolverine, Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, God of War Laufey, Ace of Combat Wings of Theve, Bancho the Chef, Control Resonant, Rayman Legends Retold, Silent Hill Townfall, Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition Remastered, Stuntman Hollywood, and Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis. We also talked about Summer Game Fest, including games Final Fantasy VII Revelation, Street Fighter VI, Resident Evil Veronica, Cuphead, Mighty Cuphead Adventure, or the Cuphead sequel, Mighty Cuphead Adventure, Monster Hunter Wilds Ascendance, Stellar Blade Blood Rain, and TMNT The Last Ronin. I still have a couple other news things. I'm sorry. I skipped past these. I want to make sure I tell you about these. So, Fields of Mistria. This game is going to launch into 1.0 on August 5th. This was announced during the Wholesome Direct, which took place on Saturday, June 6th. The full releases for Fields of Mistria is going to include marriage, children, new Saturday market NPCs, and more. More reveals are on the way, so stay tuned. I like to stay up to date with Fields of Mistria. This one's developed and published by NPC Studio, and the social media and marketing manager is Sarah Podzorski, who is one of my favorite internet people to follow. So I like to keep up with this and make sure that I'm making you aware of anything going on with Fields of Mistria. So the original release of this game was August 5th, 2024. I think it's pretty cool that 1.0 is going to release on August 5th, 2026. You can start your new life, build the farm of your dreams as you discover a world brimming with possibilities. Magic, romance, and adventure all await you in this nostalgic farming life sim RPG. So congrats to NPC Studio on announcing your 1.0 date, and congrats to Sarah Pods for being a great internet person and social media and marketing manager for Fields of Mistria. And the last bit of news that I want to tell you about that I forgot to is Elden Ring Tarnished Edition. The Nintendo Switch 2 date has been revealed, and that's going to be August 28th. So everything coming out this year in August, or I guess September, but this one has been delayed. This was supposed to come out last year, but it got shown off really poorly, so they've taken some more time to cook this, and hopefully the whole world will be appreciating that, because Elden Ring is a great video game. Elden Ring is an action RPG set in an authentic dark fantasy world, developed by From Software, and this Elden Ring Tarnished Edition for Nintendo Switch 2 is an all-in-one version that includes the main Elden Ring game, plus all the DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, as well as additional content such as 4 new armor sets, 2 new starting classes, and a feature to change the appearance of Torrent the Spectral Steed, and that'll be 3 types total. The additional content will also be available for purchase on other platforms as the Tarnished Pack. So, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition coming to Switch 2 on August 28th, another third-party powerhouse coming to the Switch 2, and I'm excited about that. So, those were the 2 additional things that I wanted to tell you about. So we talked about, recapping once again, we talked about those Sony accessories. We talked about the Sony State of Play. We talked about Summer Game Fest. We talked about Fields of Mistria. I guess we talked about Steam Machine. We talked about ASUS, ROG, Xbox Ally X20, the Xbox Game Showcase, the Gears of War E-Day Direct. We talked about Fields of Mistria and Elden Ring Tarnished Edition. So sorry for a little bit of out of order or confusion there for my notes and how that was lined up. But that was everything I wanted to tell you about from the video game world in the past week. It was definitely a great week for announcements. It was a great week for watching these events. Even though I was disappointed, I was excited to watch them. It's just fun to watch video games being shown off and celebrated, and the excitement around them and the new ideas, and even things you don't like. It was fun to watch. So, thank you for all that great entertainment in the past week. So that's going to wrap up this midsection of the show. There is one final section left to go, the miscellaneous talk section. It's normally pretty short and sweet, so come back after this music. welcome back to the final section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 183. This is the miscellaneous talk section where I can talk about anything I want to outside of the video game world. So as always, I want to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. And starting off with the NFL, the Carolina Panthers, nothing going on with them. It's the offseason. The first preseason game for the Carolina Panthers will be taking place on August 6th. So, getting closer, but still some months away. Panthers at the Cardinals, but that will actually be the first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game. So just want to make sure we're all aware of that. So go Panthers. And then on the NBA side of things, nothing going on with my two favorite teams. Since the NBA finals are going on right now between the Knicks and the Spurs, the Knicks have a 2-0 lead. So pretty surprising there, just, taking two games in San Antonio off the jump. So we're going to have to see what's going to happen in that one. But I'm a halfway fan of the Charlotte Hornets, since I am a North Carolina resident. It's the offseason for them. The only thing looking forward to in my NBA teams is the NBA draft on June 23rd, so only a couple weeks away. In the first round, the Hornets have pick 14 and 18, so I just want to keep remembering that. My favorite team on the NBA side of things, even though I'm still a little bit upset with them after their Trae Young trade last year, is the Atlanta Hawks. Offseason for them as well. The NBA draft on June 23rd, the Hawks have the 8th and the 23rd pick of the first round. So that's all I really have to report on my NBA teams, and the entire NBA season will be wrapping up very soon. And then for my favorite sport in the universe, Major League Baseball, and my favorite team in the universe, the Atlanta Braves, they're going to be playing today at 1:35 against the Pirates to close out this week. And since last week, since I've talked to you, they played the Reds last Sunday. The Braves lost last Sunday 4-6 to close out that week. The Braves had an off day on Monday, and then they started a series in Atlanta versus Toronto. Tuesday versus Toronto, the Braves won 4-3. Wednesday versus Toronto, the Braves won 7-3. Thursday versus Toronto, the Braves lost 2-7. So they won that series. I think they have won almost 90% of their series this year. So the Braves are really doing phenomenal. I have zero complaints. Then after playing Toronto, the Braves have moved on to the Pirates in Atlanta for the weekend. No Paul Skeens, which was lucky for the Braves. Friday versus the Pirates, the Braves won 6-3. Saturday versus the Pirates, the Braves won 6-3 once again. So hopefully that'll be the case today as well when they play the Pirates in about 3 hours from now. But after Saturday night's game against the Pirates, the Braves won. The Braves are now 44-21. They are first in the NL East, and they have a 2-game lead on the Dodgers for the entire best record in all of Major League Baseball. So, very, very excited there. Next week, the Braves have an off day on Monday once again, and then they're gonna play 3 at the White Sox and then 3 at the Mets to close out the week. So, a whole week on the road, and some Mets games in there, which are always, the Mets are my least favorite team in the entire league. My favorite team to see the Braves beat up on, and I will be excited to watch those games in the upcoming week. So go Braves, go Ronnie. I love the Braves catchers to get back healthy. That'd be nice to get Drake and Sean back. And, shout out to all the pitchers really doing their thing. Shout out to old man Chris Sale. I'm out there really doing his thing. Strider coming back, figuring it out and being productive once again. Bryce Elder, Perez, Iglesias has been doing his thing there on the back end. The bullpen's been holding it down. So, really, really good things going on with the Braves and having a fun time watching them. So go Braves today. And I'll be excited to watch them along with the Xbox showcase today. So that's my plan for the afternoon. So that's everything I got going on for all my favorite teams. We talked about the Carolina Panthers, the Charlotte Hornets, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Atlanta Braves. So that's really going to wrap up this final section of the show. And that's going to wrap up the entire show in general. So I'd like to reiterate some promotional talk from the beginning. Please follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch you play some games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you like to subscribe monthly. That's definitely the best place to guarantee you can always get the podcast ad-free. And then also Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. So thank you so much for listening. I truly appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful week out there in the world, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. If things are going your way, I hope that continues. If things are not going your way, I hope that changes. I hope you come back next week and listen to another episode of Dep Lewis Show, because that's where I'll be. I'll definitely be talking and recapping the Xbox game showcase that takes place today and the Gears of War E-Day Direct that takes place today. So come back next week for news on those. And it might be more of a quiet week in news since we've had all this hoopla going on this week, but I'll definitely still find some stuff to talk about, find some stuff to tell you about, and you never know when some great news may break. So you got to stay tuned to the Dep Lewis Show always, because I would appreciate it. And just thank you, and have a good one out there. I'm trying to think of what else I want to say. Hey, I'm going to probably be playing some more Pokemon in the upcoming week. I'm probably going to be playing some more Forza Horizon 6 in the upcoming week. I'm probably going to be cheering the Braves on, and I'll be glad to talk to you once again on another episode of the Dep Lewis Show another time. Goodbye.